Susan, thank you so much for joining me today. Super excited to chat with you. And okay, so to get us started, usually I ask about the background, which I will do, but
Yeah.
kind of a high level. Just explain who you are, what you're doing. You are one of the founders of Petaverse, and Petaverse builds digital pets to be by your side across the metaverse. So we know that high level, but before diving deep into like Petaverse and everything you're going to do there, tell me more about your background. Like how'd you get to Petaverse?
Yeah, sure. I've been in video games 25 years now, half my life, literally. My partners, my husband, we've been working together for 24 years. And we come from the console world. So I was involved in Grand Theft Auto very early on. And Lee, my partner, was a producer on some of the GTA titles. He worked his way up from QA to producing. And I started 2K Games and 2K Sports with the CEO of Take-Two. So bought Sega Sports, that became 2K Sports, 2K Games. I signed BioShock, Borderlands, bought the Civilization IP. Like most of what 2K is known for today are all things that we signed back then. And then after that, we kind of fled the corporate world. We started another startup company that ended up going public, and then we worked together for 14 years now, doing a variety of different projects in video games that we just wanted to do. So we worked with Paramount and Bad Robot on a Star Trek title. Patrick Stewart on a War of the Worlds game, like any sort of pet interest we've had over the years. And then we love Doctor Who, so we picked up the rights to Doctor Who, and we did a free-to-play Doctor Who game that did about 3 million installs. And we got into augmented reality a few years ago, working with Aardman on Wallace and Gromit on a series of bleeding edge AR R&D experiments, you might say. And that's really all what led us to where we are today. Petaverse, in many ways, brings together all the things that we love and create something new out of all of it. It's like our ultimate project, you might say.
Yeah, I mean, your experience is just mind-boggling. All right, so, but your experience though is if we can just call it this, like it was more Web 2. The AR was creeping into like the metaverse realm, and with obviously with Web 3, it's Web 3. So, like, what was the initial interest for you in AR? Because that's a totally different medium than probably what you were used to. But obviously, you were well versed in that arena.
Yeah, AR was an interesting one. We were encouraged by the Welsh government to bid for a grant in AR. I know it's a bit weird. As an American, it was really weird. The idea that the government would pay us to get into AR. They had 30 million pounds dedicated to immersive storytelling projects.
What? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
I know. And half of it was going to go to 4 projects. And so my partner and I put in a bid for this. The two of us. We grabbed a few other companies to bolster. It was supposed to be a consortium. And we bid thinking we had no chance whatsoever to win. And we left money on the table. We could have gotten like £4 million in the initial grant. We left money on the table. And everyone fell in love with the project. And we won. We beat out a couple hundred companies for this. And it was actually originally going to be a Doctor Who project, which is a very long story. But we ended up working with Aardman on Wallace and Gromit. And we've been in love with AR since the first time we saw a HoloLens demo from Microsoft, the very first time they showed it off. And I remember thinking, and Lee thinking, it'd be so cool if you had like something that could follow you around. At the time we were working on Doctor Who, so we're like, imagine a Dalek just like follows you around, in your daily life. Like that, surely that's got to be a thing. And so it's so funny that that's really what came full circle, right? With AR, with digital pets, with this notion that the metaverse will be a lonely place if you don't have something to accompany you. So that's how we got into it. And it was great because, AR was still really nascent. All people really knew was Pokemon Go. And whilst Niantic's super talented, it's not really an AR game. People turn off the AR in Pokemon. That's not really what the core experience is. And so there wasn't a lot out there. There were a lot of big companies wanting to make it happen and who heard that we had a budget. And so they threw their support behind us. So Unity gave us access to like the Mars technology, which is some of their AR bleeding edge tech before anybody else. We had their lead engineer helping us. We got in front of a load of executives at Apple because of it. Qualcomm picked us as one of their first Snapdragon Spaces partners. Meta asked us to help on their Spark strategy. So we got very visible because of this fact that we had funding to play in a space that wasn't profitable yet, and learned a lot. learn about how to use lidar. Lidar on the iPhone is mind blowing, and it's still like well beyond what most of the AR glasses are capable of. So lidar is, if you got a pro iPhone, it's those three cameras on the back, and that's what allows your phone to understand the semantics of the space it's in. And so that's why, in our initial app, the cat can jump up onto a couch and run off around the corner, as it very quickly understands the space that it's in. And it's getting better and better and more quicker and more efficient at picking up that information. But it's just so magical. And so that's really, we fell in love with that, with how additive it can be. It's not, I like VR for certain things, and we're doing a VR experience for the pets, but AR is something that gets us to look up and around us. It doesn't close us off from the world. Cell phones close us off because we're always looking down. VR literally closes us off. AR actually encourages you to look up and have this magical additive experience. And that's why I've always been so captivated by it. It enhances the world,
Yeah. So I kind of had this thought or thesis that most people will experience the metaverse, whatever that is. It's still kind of a nebulous, definition there. But most people experience the metaverse through AR and not VR. At least in like the next, in the shorter term. Longer term, I think we're all probably going to be in the matrix of some sort. But is that
maybe we are,
that, yeah, we kind of already are. But is that something that you think of when you're building out AR applications, and even with Wallace and Gromit, was that something that you're like, oh, this is way more user friendly and more normal people will utilize this versus hardcore gamers will probably utilize, or hardcore type gamers will more utilize VR?
I think so. I think that it's, clearly AR glasses are going to be ubiquitous like phones. I don't think anyone really just, dispels that. It's just a question of and how quickly the technology can catch up and be lightweight enough and affordable enough, for it to be, like your phone. But it definitely will be. And I do think it's additive to the world around us. And I do think it's the North Star of Petaverse, right? Everything that we're doing, all the assumptions we're making, all the tech decisions that we're making are all about making these NFTs, these Web3 pets, just as relevant decades from now when we have AR glasses. We're building towards that. And so what's really exciting is we can sell those pets now. We can give you experiences that showcase interoperability and stuff, and give you things to do, but you can know that they're going to be resilient to changes in technology. So that when you do have those glasses on, that same pet's, there. Everything it's collected over the years is there. Its memories of how it problem solved are there. How it's been trained and how it's been nurtured and how it's, over time, all that's there. And so that's what we're built. We're just letting you start now. It's like the early days of nurturing this pet that will be waiting for you in your AR glasses if you keep it.
So, okay, yeah. What do you think about, like, I don't know. I feel like I've heard about AR's iPhone moment so many times. And Magic Leap, I for a long time, I was like, Magic Leap is the future. It's going to be amazing. Now they've kind of like, I don't even know what they're dealing with.
I have one collecting dust in my closet in the other room.
Okay. Is it incredible, or how is it?
Nah, the problem is I didn't see the Magic Leap until after I saw the HoloLens 2 at GDC a few years ago. And I was pretty impressed with the HoloLens 2. And then I put on a Magic Leap 1, and, the field of view is so small, and it's just like this one plane in front of you. And what you can do on a mobile phone is so incredible on an iPhone Pro that it was really, it really let me down. So I haven't had any great glasses experiences, but we're starting to. We work closely with Qualcomm because of the Snapdragon Spaces stuff. So we get privy to some stuff, that's coming. And the new Meta glasses I've not gotten my hands on yet, but I heard they're pretty cool. The sort of AR VR stuff that's going, because that's in my mind where it's all going. Is that we'll solve the technology problems of trying to make a lightweight set of glasses that can give you a VR experience when you want them, can fog off, and black out. And then when you want an AR experience, they should be able to do that too. And that's not easy. It's hard enough to make AR glasses, but I'm not a technologist, but I do feel like that's where it's going to head towards, and we'll be able to accomplish all of that in one. But so I haven't seen anything like that yet. There's a company called Vario in Scandinavia that do really cool glasses that are kind of a hybrid. Like the way their AR works is almost like VR. Like, as I understand it, it captures the information and then superimposes it on top of the recorded information. And so it's way more seamless, and you get this beautiful blended experience. But they're really expensive. They're like $3,000. And rumor is that the Apple ones are going to be $3,000. So the price is what I know. And Apple are like the only company that can get away with that. People will
Yeah,
still line
yeah,
up for
right.
it, So maybe it's good. Maybe it'll fix
Yeah,
it for all of us. Apple says it's okay to spend $3,000 on glasses. Okay.
yeah, yeah. All right, so will that be the medium that most people experience VR in the near future, or do you think that like the vast majority? I mean, people are already experimenting with VR through like Pokemon Go and Snapchat and whatnot. Like, will it just be iPhone like all the way?
The problem with the phones is that there isn't a common standard. Like going back to video game development, what's great about the consoles is it gives you a fixed platform to develop for.
Mhm.
Whereas PC development can be a pain because you don't know what device each person has, so you have to figure out what the minimum requirements are. The same problem with mobile and AR because Android doesn't have LiDAR. iPhone only has LiDAR and pro devices. And so when you create an AR experience, it's very hard to make sure it's a great experience for everybody like the Mematron app that we're about to launch. If you have an iPhone, the cat can jump up onto surfaces, do all this stuff. In Android, you can't do that. And if you have an iPhone that doesn't have LiDAR, you can't do it. And so you get this kind of disparate experience. And so I think that's the hope for glasses is that at least we can have a standard and say this is what everybody has. And so everybody can have a great experience.
All right, if you had to guess, at what point will people have? Will there be ubiquitous, readily accessible AR?
Yeah, that's an interesting question
Wearables.
because so Terry Schussler, I don't know if you met Terry. He's at Deutsche Telekom. He's on our advisory board. He's a very smart technologist, and we had an AMA about this on Twitter a few weeks ago, and he said he actually thinks it's a year or two off.
Really? A year or two?
Yeah, I mean not ubiquity, but at least the early adopters. It being, I think he kind of meant like that it would be normal to walk around and see people with AR glasses on. So I don't think he meant like complete ubiquity, but it was way more bullish than I thought anyone was going to be. And I have to say that CES seems to have also, put a new bullish, slant on it. Everyone's got to invest in something, right? Suddenly no one wants to, suddenly Web3 isn't so sexy. And I heard even AI is already on its way out as quickly as it came in of sexy investment. So maybe it'll be AR. Like that would be exciting for us if AR became the buzzword of the moment.
Well, I do think that when there is when the hardware is ready for AR, whether it be Apple glasses, the Meta glasses, who knows what, then that'll be a huge narrative. It'll go from it'll be crypto, then it'll go AI, and then immediately you go to AR, and everyone say AR is the future. What's funny is that like all these technologies combined in my mind are like the metaverse. It's not just like one thing, and so it's so cool that you're utilizing every kind of piece of this to build up Petaverse. And but talking
And
about
even
that, if
there, Andrew, because like to your point, the metaverse isn't anything yet, right? It's a bunch of hype.
yeah.
And this isn't even a dig on the metaverses. I like most of the people building metaverses. It takes time, to attract users there. Just no one's into Decentraland. Like that's like the big hot topic, but no one's in there. But it takes time, and it takes time to build out these worlds. We have a lot of sandbox experience. My partner working on Grand Theft Auto. It takes time to make that fun. And so that's why I've become fond of saying that we're building the plumbing of the metaverse. And NVIDIA's CEO said something really similar recently, which was very validating that I wasn't the only person saying that. That, since these destinations don't quite exist yet in any meaningful way, we should be focusing on how we get between them. And, that's why our focus is on interoperability, is because that's what's going to allow us to navigate with these digital pets, those spaces once they're there.
And when you say interoperability, you mean interoperability between like the iPhone, the Android, the computer?
Yeah. So my favorite thing to say at the moment is that Web3, the three of Web3 is ownership, interoperability, and composability. And our whole project is around that theme. That's what's most exciting to us about Web3 and the promise of Web3. It was never about tokenomics. It was never about play to earn. It was about, we've been renting our stuff as gamers and as consumers in technology. How do we switch that paradigm and start to own things? And so what I mean by that is owning your stuff, interoperability, taking it with you wherever you want to go, regardless of the experience, regardless of the blockchain, regardless of the device. And thirdly, composability, meaning being able to take these things that you have now and build new things with it, and being empowered to build new things with it. That's what is the magic of Web3 to me, and why it's such an inherently collaborative space. Like competition's there, everyone wants to make money, but the real magic of it comes to life when we realize that we create a bigger space for everyone when we collaborate together, and more money for everybody when we can collaborate together. So that's what I mean by it, and I think that's the most important thing we can all do right now is build that layer, so that these things can move to these places once they exist. we're in the setup now.
Yeah. So okay, so your background was very focused on gaming specifically, and I wouldn't. I mean, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but Petaverse is more like an experience. It's like a gamified experience. Is that accurate to say?
All experiences. No, I'd say it goes beyond that.
Okay.
And people really, it's funny. I've had a few conversations in Twitter lately. I had one like 2 days ago where someone said, "Do you know what? I think I've misunderstood your project all along. You're going to blow my mind if you're telling me this is what you're building." I'm like, "Yeah, that's what we're building." And he was just
Yeah.
like, "Wow, okay, like that's not what
Yeah.
I thought you were doing." Because everyone kind of wants, because we're a game developer, right? So everyone wants to think of it as the game, and when is the Petaverse game coming? And no matter how many times I say it, there isn't a specific game. It's all of the things. Everyone still kind of wants to anchor that in one game. We originally, in fairness, wanted to build Nintendogs, and let you bring your pets into it. And then the more we started to understand the market, and then the market turned, and we really dug in on like, so what's our product market fit, and who's actually buying NFTs, and why are they buying NFTs? And we realized that like 10,000 people are doing most of the consumption of NFTs and flipping them back and forth. Like, well, that's not a market for Nintendogs yet. That's in the future when we get to the mass market. And we said, you know what? And if we put all of our effort into building Nintendogs, we don't really showcase interoperability. We showcase a game, with pets in it that arguably could be Web 2. And so we kind of massaged our thinking and said, let's focus first on interoperability. Let's focus on smaller iterative experiences that can, delight people with the fact that I bought this thing and now I can do these 5 things with it. And they're all different. And sometimes the pet doesn't even look the same. And wow, and I can even build new things for it. Like I want to build a mouse catching game. Well, guess what? You can use our tech stack and you can build that. And so it's really about, our project is about infinite possibility with these pets. So, the first few experiences that we're launching, they aren't even really games. The first one, the Memetron, is about building social sharing content with your pet, like being in Snap. And so you get to see your unique pet in funny moments, and you can create memes for social media with it. And it's beautiful, and it's audio, it's lovely, and it's like a next generation flex. Instead of just showing off your PFP, you're showing off your 3D PFP getting freaked out by a cucumber. And there's a little bit of light gameplay, the laser pointer and stuff, but it's not in any way a game at its core. And then we're launching a VR game, but it's a game in the sense that you can play with your pet, but it's meant to be holistic and meditative and therapeutic, like you chilling out by a lake with your cat and painting. And we're about to launch that too. Like right after the Mint's going to come with the Memetron, about a month later, we're going to let the first people into the VR game. So this is all we've built. And then we're launching a Twitch integration so that you can bring your pet onto your Twitch stream. So nothing to do with the game. It's really about your digital sidekick and letting your audience interact with your pet and trigger animations and so forth. And then we're launching something that's more like a Tamagotchi, a caring experience that you can have with your pet across devices. And we're going to launch breeding, and then we're going to launch Next Pet. And then we're going to open up our tech stack, and hopefully we can get loads of people saying, you know what, I want to build, Pac-Man with cats or something and they'll be able to use our tech stack to build these things. And so hopefully very quickly, there's all this stuff that you can do with your interactive, your interoperable asset. Plus, we'll bring them into the sandbox and Nifty Island and all the other places that are built on Unity that can very easily support our tech. So it's very hard to sum up, but it's a completely it's like a primitive of Web3, right? It's like here are the tools and the building blocks to make pets permanent and not have to invent them over and over and over again in games.
That's so cool. I mean,
Does
yeah,
that make sense?
I love yeah, absolutely. I love the kind of plumbing approach, as you mentioned, kind of the infrastructure approach, where you guys are dog fooding, if you will, like making your own technology and building that up, proving that, and then enabling other people to build experiences on top of that's so cool.
Because here's the thing, we like Nintendogs, right? Going back to the Nintendogs example, 25 million people played it. It's stuck in an old plastic DS that most people don't even have anymore. It's broken or it's in the back of a drawer. And it's stuck in an art style that was created like 20 years ago. So it looks dated. And that's the sort of thing that Web3 can prevent from happening. Our thesis is that if we're thoughtful about the storage of metadata, where it's stored, how it's accessed, how it's changed, and so forth, then we can be cross-platform. So we don't bridge, we can bridge, but we have a concept called cloning. You call it a pet passport. And it means that even though you minted your pet on Ethereum, you can have the permission to use it on Solana or Polygon or Cardano or wherever a game happens to be. But it's still the same metadata. It's just a copy of the pet, and it's not for trading. It's not for breeding. It's really just the permission to use it there as well. Because the mass market's not going to want to bridge their stuff. It's
Totally.
dangerous and complicated and stuff. And so it's like a shared save file system that just
That's awesome.
enables, that. And that means that in the future, if there's a new blockchain, that's fine. If suddenly it's something else is the flavor of the week, we've got you covered and you're sorted. And on the art side, we say that shared source of metadata is just a blueprint for what the pet looks like. And if you decide that you needed to look anime and 2D, then
Cool.
you can change it and still support the same. Think like DALL-E and OpenAI, the same data, the same prompt leads to a different art style.
That's
And
really cool.
so it doesn't matter if art has moved on and this looks like shit compared to the Fidelity 20 years from now, because we
Right.
can just change the model, keep
Yeah.
upgrading it.
That's awesome. All right. Okay. So, but like your background, you were really heavily involved in games, obviously, and like I feel like this is more experiential. So, what was the thought process behind? Hey, we don't want to make one game. We want to make this kind of platform ecosystem. Why did you decide to do that? Like, what was the thought process?
So a couple of years ago, we were coming out of the AR, and we spent 10 years thinking we never wanted a team again, that it was just going to be the two of us. But we suddenly had a couple of employees, and we had some funding in the bank, and we were, kind of bitten by the AR bug. But I was concerned that I didn't want it to just live in one game, and I didn't want to be reliant on AR because I didn't know when AR glasses, ubiquity was going to happen. So I literally said to Lee, let's get a cat up and running in a space, because I think people will understand that, in a way that I felt our prior project had just been overly complex about storytelling. This, like, just a cat in a space. And I said, but how can we do it in such a way that that we can have other games as well that maybe aren't AR? A console game, whatever. And Lee was the one who said to me that if we thought about it in a Web3 sense, it wouldn't really matter what platform you were on; it would still be the same pet. And so that was our initial thought process: was how can we create a bunch of content for the pets? And then we thought about how could we bring them into other games? How could we, because pets are kind of they're an easy, like almost Trojan horse into a game. It's hard to replace the avatar. That's challenging. Like what Ready Player Me is doing. Great company, but it's challenging to get game developers to ever adopt that, because game developers want to create their own art style, and so if there's a set art style, it doesn't work. Pets, are additive. They're not. It's not replacing the avatar. It's just a thing that follows you around. It doesn't even have to impact gameplay. World of Warcraft has thousands of pets that could follow you around. So we felt like it was an interesting approach as well there, because it wouldn't impact the game, and so it was an easier sell. And then we really started to think about interoperability, and we went deeper and deeper down this Web3 rabbit hole. We changed blockchains a few times. We were going to be on Flow initially, and we're good friends with Dapper. And then we got concerned that we really should start EVM compatible, and we were going to be on Polygon. We love the Polygon team too. And we had this real journey over the course of the last year that led us to the realization we had to launch on Ethereum. And that happened. We realized that a couple months ago, especially after the merge. The energy issues went away, the gas prices have come down considerably, and we just felt it was important. This is the very beginning of a massive project, and we felt like maybe we're Ethereum maxis, but we felt like it's got to be there. And the more we went down all these rabbit holes, the more we realized how much was possible. And it's like every other week, we have another realization about something that we can do because of Web3. We realize that we can create detachable NFTs. Once you have these, items and inventory for your pets, we're going to allow you to detach them and separate them as two NFTs. Basically, maybe you want to keep the hat and get rid of the cat, or vice versa. Cloud updating of NFTs, we're exploring, like all these different areas, and it's almost like, how much time is there in the day? How big is our team? How much can we do? We're so full of ambition, but having to continue to laser focus on delivering and in order what we're
Totally.
trying to build.
So it was basically from. Well, oh, sorry, really fast. I just want to show my cat. Or she just came over here. Crypto. Okay. So this is Crypto.
She's awesome.
Other cat's name is Kitty. They're sisters.
And
so Crypto Kitty.
I'm gonna have to make that cat tomorrow. I'll send you an image.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be so cool.
They are blind
I
box, but in the I get a lot of people asking me like when they'll be able to create their cat, and it is totally
yeah,
something on the roadmap down the road is figuring out how people can recreate their own pet, Petaverse.
that's super cool. Yeah. All right. So it was really your experience that drove you to be like, hey, let's not make a singular game. Let's make this
Yeah.
whole ecosystem and platform where people can expand and create and yeah,
And
it's
we've got
super
some
important.
great platform people. We're about to hit close to. I think we're about to hit 30 people now, and which is crazy. We were 10 people a year ago, and really good folks, most of whom I've worked with for a long time. And we have a great CTO who's been creating software for 30 years, and because some of it's people like that who are helping us to go down that road because that's something he knows how to do. We built a platform. Above and beyond all of this, things that we never said we were going to do, we built a Petaverse network platform, and we created a whole slew of tools around whitelisting, customization, and the unboxing journey, and the wallet integrations, and that's going to continue to grow too, like what we're doing on the platform side. So I'd say it's been a collaborative effort. Our management team, we sit together all the time and just keep poking at the edges. Actually, I have a meeting now that I put in every week with my partner and with our CTO to just talk about the future. Nothing to do with what we're trying to deliver right now. What are the crazy ass ideas that should be like on our
That's
roadmap and the
so
backlog?
cool.
Yeah, and I love that meeting because that's when we can just go a bit wild. Like, yeah, I know we can't do it right now, but could we? Could this be something that's accomplished, and how
Yeah.
would we do that?
Yeah.
And I think it's really important. I think it's the R&D part of our company that always stays there. Is what else could we do to make this even cooler?
What are the keys to creating an engaging product? Because part of it is like, okay, set up a UGC platform where people can create their own content because that's kind of like they'll tell you what's engaging. But from your standpoint, like how do you know, or in your experience, what do you know that causes people to get super excited and very engaged?
I think you got to focus first and foremost on fun, and I think that's why Web3 struggled so much, with the play to earn mechanics and Axie, model. Is I think that there was this focus on monetization before there was a focus on just why would you just want to be there if you didn't make money? Like any game should be able to tell you why you'd want to play it if there was no monetary component to it, right? Like just why would you do it for the fun? And then you can, start to layer in monetization. And so without going too far off on a tangent on that, because I could talk for ages about that. I think that it has to be focused on being fun first. I think that the core mechanics have to be great. Like I think if you extrapolate away the art, and the polish and all of that, there has to be, the what's the fun. Miyamoto talks a lot about this at Nintendo, and I don't know if you know that Miyamoto's method is he'll build 3 prototypes of a game and he throws 2 away, just completely different approaches to it, and has to find the fun, and that the fun is what you go forth with, and I think it's really important. I learned this as well from the Factor 5 guys, like the old school developer that did Turkin and stuff like that. Their demos were always like these white boxy demos, but it was fun. And if you could do a white box demo with nothing running around in it and enjoy it, like you've got something there. And so I think Web3 has to get back to that core. There's a big art to making games that you can't fake. And so I think that's been the big problem is that there was a lot of Web3 teams that didn't have any game development talent. The good thing is there are a lot of game developers who raise money to do Web3 things. So hoping that they haven't abandoned those things with the market. Like I think there's a lot coming that we haven't seen yet.
Oh yeah, yeah. There definitely is. As you know, we're pretty active in the space, and we see
Yeah.
there's a deluge of just incredible founders and people coming or have already entered, and they're launching products this year or next.
And I think the people who are staying in are hopefully doing it for the right reasons, not because an investor told them that they should do it, but because they genuinely saw value to Web3 and their products.
Yeah, you said that the top factor for engaging product is fun, but breaking that down, I think that there's like a few different types of fun. So
Mm-hmm.
with like small mobile games or like idle games, like I love like just the addictiveness of it, like just
Mm-hmm.
constantly trying to upgrade and get better. Or you can
Yeah.
play like a World of Warcraft, which is kind of a much more grindy game where you're constantly doing quests and whatnot and continuing to build up. Like, what are the different types of fun if you had to categorize that, or does that not even make sense?
No, I think it's an interesting question. I think that it shows that games can be for everyone. one of the Twitter spaces that I've been frequenting, Coffee with Captain, he took issue with me saying that play to earn it gone away, and we were never going to utter that bad set of words again. And he's like, oh, as a Web3 person, that's what finally intrigued me about games, was the fact that I could earn money during it. And there's something valid, and he's a smart guy, and I get that. So I took that on, and it's like, we shouldn't ignore the fact that there is a new market there that got into this for very different reasons than gamers did. And esports have always been about, making money. So there's the point is that there should be something for everybody. And I think the biggest thing that we need to do is start with casual mechanics. Like I've been fond of saying that I think we have to learn from free to play and mobile, what worked then. You started with things like Candy Crush and Bejeweled and, Farmville and stuff that you wouldn't call yourself a gamer for playing it. Like the mobile games that you're talking about. And then it, eventually got to tower defense, became really big. And then, now Call of Duty on mobile no one bats an eye at that. But back in the beginning, they would have, and there would have been outrage that, Call of Duty was coming to a mobile phone. And so I think that Web3 is the same. I think we need to start with these casual mechanics, and then, get people to understand it, get it working, get wallets working, fiat purchasing and all this stuff. And then, eventually, when it's proven to be fun, like gamers played Candy Crush too. They played this stuff as well. And once they could find enough fun in it, then they started to accept it. And then, bigger and bigger things got made. And so I think what's valid in what you're saying is the fact that games can be lots of things. And I think that they have to be broadly accessible first. And I think it's a mistake to focus on on the core niche, hardcore gamer, because I just don't think there's enough there for them. And I don't think there's enough
Totally.
evolution of the content for them to care. And it's certainly not going to compete with Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty and all the rest of these things that are in their, sixth, seventh iteration, and rich technology and a mature engine and everything else. Like, there's just no hope. And so I feel like we got to start by getting people hooked with mechanics.
So what is the best, and I don't know if this is even the right way to ask this, but what's the best medium to experience a game or digital experience broadly? And I guess the answer is it depends. But because I'm thinking about, like, okay, these virtual world platforms, they didn't really take off in a way that I thought they would. I thought they would have many more users by now. But then also you look at like VR. I thought VR would have more adoption. But then I go back to, okay, users just want like quick, easy, and simple, and that's why like your just computer screen and clicking a mouse and like on a simple browser works pretty well. So, like, in your opinion, like, what is the best medium for people to experience and or play games?
Ooh, God, that really is a hard question. Probably, I mean, I think consoles probably more than anything. I think the problem with mobile phones is it just mobile phones became a race to the bottom really quickly. Everything's free for the most part, and it became free so quickly that it was impossible to charge any money for it. Like if you charge even $1 on the App Store, you're going to be hard pressed to get people to install. And it's why I've been talking a lot about the dangers of the free NFT model being considered too ubiquitous too quickly, because the same thing's going to happen. Nothing's free. It just turns to in-game advertising and underhanded mechanics to get you to spend money, and all the crap that mobile gaming is associated with it. And so I think console is more purist. You have a fixed device, unlike the PC, where you know exactly what you're getting on the PlayStation. The super pick up and play. So I'm still really bullish on consoles. When it comes to that. PC gaming has definitely gotten way more popular than it used to be. I guess maybe because most people have a decent PC. Whereas back in the day, that was there was more disparity between PCs. So I think it just depends. VR gaming, yeah, really hasn't taken off, but I think that maybe when AR VR start to combine, we'll start to see that. Like I said, I think sometimes it's a great experience to be in VR, sometimes it's not, but they're clunky. It is a very closed off experience. And AR, AR eventually will be that platform. I think that will be ideal for playing games.
And the reason that is it's because you believe that in the near future, or near isn't like relative, everyone will be wearing glasses.
It'll be there. It'll be on your face. Yeah, it'll be how you get from place to place, because there'll be imagine imagine your digital pet walks you from place to place. You're trying to find a restaurant. Your cat walks you there. Your dog walks you there. You go running, and your dog can pace you. It can be like the ghost lap of what you did last time. There's so much you can do with that. right? That's the kind of stuff I imagine. Or, my cat is playing with your dog and someone else's dragon, and it becomes like the daemons of his dark materials. It's not perfect. I mean, the problem with AR is best when it adds to the world around us. So I don't think it'll ever be a replacement for like big fantasy worlds that I think you need VR and consoles for and stuff like that. But I do think it'll become a big part of our lives, just like our cell phones.
So do you think that our phones will be replaced by like wearable glasses?
Yeah, I do. I totally do.
Really?
I mean, granted, I thought that watches were going to go away, and now I have a smartwatch again. So I
Yeah.
guess
Yeah.
I called that one wrong. But but I don't see why you'd have a phone. Look, I think for a period of time you'll have both. Like there are a lot of tethered AR glasses that take advantage of the processing power of the phone, and so I think there'll be a period of time where that will keep the cost down. Whether it's wired or wireless. But I think eventually, once it becomes cheaper and everything else, I think that'll replace it. And then there's cool things like I don't know if you've seen Mojo Vision. They've got the contact lens.
No way. Is
Yeah,
that in
they
concept or is
raised a
that
bunch of money. I talked to their head of R&D, this guy Steve. I don't know, like 2 years ago when we were working on our air project, and so it was still early, and it only supported two colors. He was telling me the wild thing was if you closed your eyes, you saw AR like on your eyelids.
oh my God, that's
And I'm
crazy.
like, that's really cool. And it's like, yeah, well, it's there to remind you to take them out because you shouldn't sleep with them in. And I'm like, but how wild would that be to close your eyes and,
Oh
you
my
know,
God.
still see stuff? But so I think that maybe it's headed that way. I think that's probably going to be a further progression and, take time to get to more than two colors and everything else. And then, I don't know, some say it'll be a chip in our brains eventually. So
Yeah.
I think maybe that won't be in my lifetime, but
I mean, talking about brain machine interfaces pretty quick, like uh, we already have the ability to activate our sense of taste, sense of smell, sense of touch, sight for people that have gone blind, not full vision. It's kind of like outlines and whatnot.
yeah.
So that's all capable today. So and some of that's invasive, like Neuralink. Some of it's non-invasive, like I think the kernel is non-invasive, I believe. So
Mm.
it's already like here. So I think it's definitely going to happen. In the next like in the next 10 years would not be that crazy for there to be some very simple version of that,
Yeah.
in more of a widespread.
I hope so. It's the thing I say not in my lifetime, but I think of what's changed in my lifetime. When I graduated, I graduated college in '94. I literally picked up my email address as I was leaving campus. I'd never used my email address.
But you
You
picked up your
know,
email address.
yeah,
What
like
do
it
you
was my
mean?
college email address. I'd never like none of us had. I had a computer, but it
Oh,
wasn't on the internet. It was for like printing out term papers and stuff. And I had friends who were on
yeah,
IRC. Like that's how old I'm getting. And I had dial up modems after that, and now here I am, half a lifetime later, and we're talking about AR classes and chips in your head. So
that's so
can't
cool.
imagine what 25 years from now will be.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be awesome. All right, so
Yeah,
so yeah, tell me more about Petaverse and this mint, because I know you guys have an upcoming mint. I
yeah.
don't know if the whitelist is already full, but if not, then like plug in that process so people can kind of sign up.
Yeah. So our website's really easy. It's petaverse.com. And that will get you to everything from there. That's probably the easiest thing. Yeah, we're whitelisting. I'm releasing about 150 spots a day on the whitelist. Plus, we're doing some collaborations with communities, and so it's there are a lot of people wanting to get on. We're not being coy about it, and it's not like a FOMO thing. It's more we've been really organic about the community. Like we're not paying any influencers. We haven't, I keep having people approach me about paid spaces and stuff, and I'm like, we just want it to be real. I would do a smaller collection with a smaller community and do it real, as opposed to like blow this up with a bunch of people who didn't really care. So we've told people we'll only collaborate if they'll let us come in and talk to their community, even though it's
Cool.
killing me because that's for me personally and my schedule this
Yeah.
month.
Yeah.
Um, careful what you wish for. Like, how many people do you have in your community? I'm super active on. I've learned that the job of a CEO in Web3 is
Marketing.
at least a
Marketing.
third of it is Twitter, right? Is I am all over
Crazy.
Twitter Spaces. Jesus Christ! But it's fun. Like you get to talk to your users all the time,
Yeah.
and when you get pissed off at other founders, you get to just talk to them on a space and be like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's nice. Yeah, we haven't announced the date, the price, or the collection size, but we're going to be announcing that in like the next week or so. We're weeks off.
Idea. What if you announce it now, leaks him out first? How about that?
When's this air? We're weeks away. We're not more than that.
Okay.
Like, so
Okay.
it's like we're being a little bit coy just because who the hell knows what's going to happen tomorrow in Web three? And
Totally.
if like
Yeah.
something bad happens, I don't want to be associated with it. Like, I'd rather we'll give it a few weeks and let it blow over. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's really the only coyness. People seem super excited. You know, our Twitter account's blown up. Our Discord's over 20,000 people now, and so it's really gratifying because people seem to be there for the right reason and
Totally.
seem to be really enamored of what we're building. And so
Yeah.
now I'm just saddled with this obligation, this moral obligation that I really want to do
Yeah.
right by everyone who's excited about us.
Totally. Yeah. And this is different than other NFTs in the sense that it's like an experiential good versus
Mm.
a collectible good or like art good. It is those things as well, but I think that's something that you could experience is different than what a lot of things that have come up before.
I think we're one of the first projects to launch with utility. You know, where like immediately you have an app, and so I feel really wonderful about that because we always said that that was what we were going to do, and that's why we've been building for 2 years. And yeah, I hope people hold on. You know, I hope this is one of the NFTs that you just can't bear to get out of your wallet.
I will caveat, I will warn you that there's a lot of traders right now, because now that the bull
Totally.
market is kind of gone, we're left with the hardcore users who are just
Yeah.
like, hardcore love this stuff. And we're left with the traders, which I don't think you need them both. I think it's fine
Yeah,
to have
I think
both, but
so. I think so. I've come to terms with the fact that people are gonna sell their pets, and it's like that's the great thing about Web3. I keep saying the same thing is that you don't buy a couch because you're just going to immediately resell the couch. You buy the couch because you want to sit on it for a while, and then maybe eventually you want to trade up the couch and then you sell it. But so that's what's great about Web3 is you can. It's just I hope my hope is that we can delight people with content and utility so much that it hurts you and bothers you to sell it, and it's going to be expensive because you invested so much of yourself into it.
that's awesome. So this drop is going to be for cats specifically, or is it
Cat
also for different
specifically.
animals?
No, it's cats. We are already working on the second type of pet. Is already in
Ooh,
development.
have you announced what that is?
We haven't. It'll distract people from the first one.
Oof, oof, I'm curious. I'm so curious.
All this baby alpha, and we even know what the third pet's going to be. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, we built a lot. Like I come from video games where it's all about the live plan and like what
Yeah.
what else is coming. And so there's a lot that we could launch right now. We're launching this, and then like my hope is that every month we have another drop of something. Whether it's
Right.
another app or an announcement or
Cool.
breeding and all these. So that we can just keep people excited and it's good for that floor price.
Yeah, of course, of course.
The
So,
all important
so
floor price.
the okay, so right away, people are gonna be able to use these assets in their experience, or I mean, and
In the
also, do you
Nemotron.
call it a game? Do you call it a game?
No, we call it the Nemotron.
Nemotron. Okay, Nemotron.
Yeah, the
So,
Memetron, and there's a bunch of footage of this on our Twitter and on social media. And basically, what you'll do is it's a beautiful app, very very in line with the aesthetic of the rest of the project. And you can place in AR or in a 3D sort of hub space different experiences with your pet and share them to social media. You can also place your cat with a blank sign that you can write things on. And so it's quirky and cute, and it's just about bragging on social media, really, more than anything, and creating
which is like
creating
the most powerful force ever. So that, I mean,
exactly,
that's
exactly,
genius. Yeah,
yeah. And like people don't realize like how much is possible in AR, and so I think people are going to be really excited about showing this stuff off.
that's super cool. Okay, that brings to mind like, at what point will you be opening up your infrastructure ecosystem, whatever you call it, to other people to create experiences and content on top of Petaverse?
Yeah, this year, the what we need to do first is document and make sure it's really clear to everybody else how to do that. But we have a bunch of ideas about like doing game jams and doing like little contests and stuff to get people building content. Potentially collaborating with some other projects on that too, so as quickly as we can.
Do you have to be technical to create stuff?
You need to know how to use Unity, though it's interesting. There are some other projects out there that are creating tools on Unity to make it, super simple to make games. And so we're going to look to collaborate with some of them to get our cats into that so that we can like lower and lower and lower the threshold or bar to be able to build content. Because I'd like people to be able to come to discover us. Like I see it like itch.io, these like little experiences that you can play. I would love games of that scale that you could discover on our platform and be like, oh, I can do this thing with my cat now.
So like semi technical, you would say, if
Yeah, yeah. I'd say definitely off the bat, you'd have to know how to use Unity. But even the bar for that is so low. Like their game development teams don't even have programmers on them that are creating stuff in Unity. So, yes, you'd have to at least have some tech savvy to do
all
it.
right. So let's dream here. What is like the 10-year grand vision for Petaverse? Like where do you want it to be in 10 years?
Well, 10 years from now, Lee would like it to be a hyperstructure, just run on smart contracts so that you
Oh,
really
I like
never
that.
I know. I've been having to learn what hyperstructure means. Game developers, hyperstructures, look at them thinking they know what they're doing. So that's Lee's grand vision for all of this. Specifically because, he loves the idea that the future of these pets has nothing to do with us. If we imploded, if we moved on to other things, if we went back to console or whatever, you never have to worry. It's all Web3 and it's yours. And so I'd say that is really probably the biggest thing. I would say by then I would hope that we're going to set up a DAO, the Petaverse Foundation, where people will be able to come and say, I want to build Petaverse ferrets, and they can get funding to make ferrets or seed money for that. And so I'd love to see other people creating pet types through the foundation, because there's so many different types and it isn't even just animals. The other thing is that everything that we're doing, we feel is applicable to anything you might want to bring, like cars. Cars can be defined by metadata, robots,
Cool.
zombies. So I don't think it has to be just limited to pets either. And so I think we'll explore that as well. Plus lots and lots of content, and 25 million people bought Nintendo. So if we can get to
Wow.
10% of that, that's already pretty exciting.
Not too shabby. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, so kind of like if I had to sum that up, it's kind of like infrastructure for the augmented reality and Web3 interacting with that augmented reality. I mean, that was a
Yeah,
terrible.
and even not augmented reality, it could even be WebGL games and stuff.
Oh,
It's
cool.
really, oh yeah. So Mimatron isn't just mobile. There's a WebGL version of it as well,
Okay.
which I have to say is awesome. I only just started messing around with our WebGL version. It's 60 frames per second and it's beautiful, and nothing to do with the phone, nothing to do with AR. It's really just 3D content.
All right. So, is there anything that I missed that I haven't asked you pertaining to Petaverse?
I don't think so. I would encourage everyone to read the white paper or listen to the white paper. I did my own voice recording of our white paper. Yeah. We might get someone more famous than me to do it, but I did have a lot of fun. I kept being asked, and so I sat down one morning and I read the whole white paper. But it's a good read, I think. And there's a lot of story to tell. There's a very rich backstory to the Petaverse network that we haven't started telling, but we're about to start telling, including the sort of the celestial gods of the Petaverse network, and where all these cats came from, and we got a lot of content coming over the next few weeks to start to tell these stories.
All right. So, moving on from Petaverse specifically, now just to get a little broad here, what are the downsides in your mind of having uh, really utilizing NFTs for game assets or digital assets in general, in the sense of just by virtue of them being NFTs and being tradable, they have some market value. Because when you're dealing with a Web 2 game and there's a contained economy there, it's relatively easy to control comparative to
Mm.
an NFT where it's like, oh man, like this thing that we launched, it's trading for $1 million, even though we meant it to only trade for 10. You lose that sense of control as a game developer.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the risks or additional risks in your mind by utilizing NFTs from a game developer standpoint?
The biggest risk is just the perception of it right now.
That's it, really. It's not like losing
We got
control
off
of the
on
economy.
the economy too, but we got off on such a bad foot. Like, look, to me, the economy, it's not that different from free to play. It's always been about these levers and the economy and scarcity, and the levers that you can turn to get someone to start spending money. So I don't think it's going to be that. I think that we've always been a bit shy about doing a token. Like, I know that the governance token for the DAO is something that is definitively planned. Beyond that, we've been kind of taking a wait and see. Everything that we want to do right now, we can do in Ethereum. And so we're being really thoughtful about when we go beyond that to like our own Petaverse token or something like that.
So broadly, from a game developer standpoint, it's not. It doesn't really like not really a big deal.
Perhaps just because we're not focused on it.
True. 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 Yeah.
But so we're not focused on it. But I don't know. I've seen a lot of tokens tank, over the course of the last year, and I'm not sure how you recover from that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely not something I'm expert at, But I do think that there's a lot to be learned from from the free to play days, from the mobile days, and
Totally.
so I do think it's all going to come back around.
All right. So AI, of course, topic du jour. I have to ask you about it. How does that impact Petaverse?
I love it. I think it's fascinating. Both the art AI stuff and the chat, the chat AI. We're looking at how we can integrate it into the project. I think it can save a lot of time. Like we've used it for concept art to help our concept artists. Like we've started with our, Dolly version of concept art to put them on the right path of where we're trying to go. And the chat stuff is remarkable too. So yes, I think it's going to have a big place within game development. I don't think it's going to replace people. I think it's more like it can just save. It can be time saving. It can help you start to tell a story. It can help
Totally.
you refine a story. It's better at explaining what we're building than I am. Where we've gone through and refined prompts over and over again. It's been really fun. So yeah, I'm pretty bullish on AI just because maybe because I'm just so delighted by how it works and it doesn't feel like it's what's going to kill us.
Is there a future that you see that we could put in Chat GPT 5 or whatever future iteration there is in our pets and be able to communicate with them?
Oh yeah, I think that sort of stuff is all possible. That's why we're going to be opening up the metadata and the tech stack. Is I would love to see somebody build a talking system for the cats. A bit like my talking Tom.
Yeah, no, I mean, everyone's always said like, as far as I remember, everyone's like, man, I wish I could talk to my pet. Like, if only my pet could understand me, and
Yeah,
that'd
yeah.
be amazing. And so, realizing that future is close is super exciting.
There's some companies out there building like sort of chat AI projects and stuff like that. So definitely there seem to be some interesting collaborations to look at there.
Okay, okay, all right, Susan, thank you so much. Thank you. It was amazing chatting with you,
I love
and
this. I
we will
enjoy.
chat
I
very
really
soon.
enjoyed chatting with you again.
Amazing, awesome. Thanks, Susan. Appreciate it.